Hey! Desculpa, galera, tô um pouquinho sem voz, mas é isso. Mundo Gonzo no ar, hoje com um convidado muito, mas muito especial. Antes de mais nada, quero pedir, se você chegou aqui, já deixa seu like, aquela curtida. Hoje o bate-papo vai ser especial, como sempre. Temos um convidado gigantesco aqui com a gente. E se você chegou aqui no Mundo Gonzo e ainda não é inscrito, se inscreva no canal. Aqui a gente fala de quadrinhos, de Beatles, às vezes, porque afinal eu sou um Beatlemaniac. É, e hoje, se você não se inscreveu, se inscreva. Vamos direto aqui para o nosso convidado mais do especial. Senhoras e senhores, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, please welcome Mr. Stan Sakai Brown.
Hola. Hi, how are you?
Olá.
Hi there, sir.
This first question for Levi.
Hi, Mr. Sakai. I'm Levi Trindade. I'm the publisher here in Brazil, the Usagis publisher here in Brazil. I have this pleasure in my life, and I'm very happy to talk with you. It's an honor.
Well, I'm very happy to be with all of you here. So thank you. Thank you for arranging this interview.
Oh, thank you so much for
Thanks so
accepting
much.
the invite. I would like to start my questions talking about your work in the first. Yes, it's been a few decades working with comics, but what is inspired you to enter the world of comics?
I grew up reading comics. I remember buying the Marvel's Fantastic Four #2 off the racks, in the store, and I bought it because DC had just raised their prices to 12 cents, but Marvel was still 10 cents in the US.
Yes.
And so I bought that and I saved 2 cents. So I bought it and I've been reading ever since. I bought my first. I'm 70 years old now. I bought my first comic book when I was that was back in 1959, and I wish I still had that one, but I still have some of my early Marvel comics. I've got the early Fantastic Fours, Spider-Man, and a whole lot of other comics. And I love reading comics and I love reading books. Because I read comics, it led me to reading books, and I still read quite a lot. And you said I have been doing Usagi for decades, and that's true. Next year would be Usagi's 40th anniversary. So 40 years I've been doing Usagi, and I still love doing comics. I love working with Usagi.
Oh, great to hear. I think all of us started this way in comics.
Yeah, 72 cents. Yeah, and this takes to my question, sir, because regarding Usagi, right? My mother is 76 years old, right?
Mhm.
And she doesn't know Usagi yet. Okay, I'll make her read the book, but if you had to describe the comic for her, what would you say?
Well, Usagi is very reader friendly. Someone who does not know anything about Usagi can pick up almost any book, and right away they could understand what it's about. All you really need to know is Usagi is a samurai rabbit living in early 17th century Japan. And that's all you need to know. You can pick up any book and already you can get into the story. There's not a lot of backstory or previous stories that you need to know. You can pick up almost any book, and you can understand what's going on.
Yeah, that's great. I will make her read it in this next vacation.
For your question, I was at a San Diego Comic-Con, and a woman came up to me and told me the story. she had seen her son reading one of my Usagi books, and she asked him, "Oh, what's it about?" And her son thought for a moment, and then he said, "It's a story about honor." And I
Oh,
thought, oh, that's a wonderful answer. And so I love that.
perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect definition.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Mario? You are on mute, Mario.
Sorry, I have noisy kids here, so I have to mute my phone. I was saying, in respect to everybody, I was saying that's a huge honor, and I would like to tell you that Usagi Yoshimbo, since I am a translator alongside Levi, the publisher, a quick question: how do I pronounce? Is it Usagi Yojimbo? Is that the right way to say it?
It's Usagi Yojimbo.
Okay, because we were afraid of saying Usagi, Usagi, and things like that, and we were trying to get it right. I think it's very important.
Yes.
And
when you get to Spain, people always, oh, I love Usagi Yojimbo. And
Yojimbo.
Yes,
Yojimbo, yeah.
Yojimbo.
I've heard
And,
this different. Usagi, Usajai, you know, it's very different.
I never
everything
heard
counts,
this.
right? Since I know more or less the questions my colleagues are going to ask, I will try to avoid them and bring some of mine. First, telling that Sagi, alongside Gru the Wanderer and the French Asterix, are the top of the tops of comics for myself. And I'd like to know if you could quickly describe how Mr. Aragonés, Mr. Evanier, and Mr. Tonloof are, and if you could give us an anecdote or a backstage story of your early days alongside these three musketeers.
Okay. I do the lettering for Gru the Wanderer in the US and for the American English editions. And that is drawn by, well, it's mainly written and drawn by Sergio. Mark Evanier writes the scripts, and Sergio pretty much tells him, this is what the story is about. And Mark does a script from there. But I met Sergio because I found his name in the telephone book. Back a long time ago, they had these huge books of with people's telephone numbers and addresses.
Yes.
And I had moved up to Los Angeles from Hawaii. I grew up in Hawaii. And Sergio's name was in the phone book. So I wrote him a letter, and he called me and said, oh, yeah, I received your letter. Let's get together. He invited me to a CAPS meeting. CAPS is Comic Arts Professional Society, CAPS, and it's a group of cartoonists in Los Angeles. And it was started by Sergio, Mark Evanier, and another artist named Don Rico, who passed away. And so he invited me to that meeting. There I met Jack Kirby, Scott Shaw, Mark himself, and so many others. And that was my start in the Los Angeles artist community. And it was just because I took a chance and wrote Sergio a little letter. An anecdote, gee, I don't know. I've traveled with Sergio all over the world. We went to Hawaii for a signing. He stayed there one day, and I stayed there for a week. We went to Norway. We took the midnight train to Bergen, which is the northern part of Norway. And we took the train, and we're coming back late at night. It was an overnight train. But Sergio had to ink one page of Gru each day. And so he was inking on the train with the train moving, but he still had he had to do that page. I just fell asleep, but Sergio had to ink that page. He's very dedicated to craft. He has amazing work ethic, and that's something I learned from him. that and to do my research. Even though Gru is a very humorous comic book, he still does so much research into his art, into his stories and artwork. There was a story about Gru and the pyramids, the Egyptian pyramids. And Sergio spent a long time researching how they actually built the pyramids, or one of the theories of how they built the pyramids. Also, too, if you look at his artwork, the ships that Gru sails on and always sinks, if you look at the rigging and everything, it's all accurate. He makes up the ship, but you could actually build it, and he's just incredible that way.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Mr. Sakai, one thing that popped to my eyes in Usagi stories is, as you say, the realism. It's epic stories, epic tales of honor, of samurai and the period, but all characters are anthropomorphic animals. To I guess is to lay down the violence, the blood of, after all, are just comics, are just cartoons. The balance between realism and fantasy and put characters in animal shapes is fantastic. It's difficult for you to make this balance. You spend a lot of time thinking, oh, how I do this, how I do that, which animal are you put in this character, or it comes with the story. Can you talk a little about this process, because it's a very delicate balance, and you do fantastically well in Usagi.
Well, thank you, Rogerio. I created Usagi. Well, I wanted to do superheroes to begin with. I grew up reading superheroes, Superman and Spider-Man, Batman. Batman's still my favorite, Batman and Spider-Man. But I wanted to create a comic book of my own. And one of the first things I thought about is a samurai named Miyamoto Musashi. I grew up in Hawaii, and just down the street from me was a movie theater that showed chambara, or samurai sword fighting movies. And I would see them every weekend. There was one in particular that I enjoyed. It was the Samurai Trilogy by Inagaki, the story about Miyamoto Musashi. And when I wanted to do a comic book, I thought about Musashi, and I wanted to do a series inspired by the life of Miyamoto Musashi, who was a real samurai back in the early 17th century Japan. But one day I just drew a rabbit in a sketchbook. I tied up his ears, and I loved the design. So instead of Miyamoto Musashi, my character was named Miyamoto Usagi. Usagi means rabbit in Japanese. Yeah. And I just stuck with drawing animals. As far as which animal to choose, rabbit, of course, looks great with his ears tied up. But most of the other characters are either generic. I mean, they don't really look like, they kind of look like cats and dogs, but not really. The major characters, I spend a lot of time trying to think of what's a good design, what's appealing, or what fits that character. And for those, I spend a lot of time on. For many of my characters, just background characters. They're just, you can't really tell what they are, except they have little cat ears or dog ears. But yeah, I've been doing Usagi for 40 years, so I must be doing something right.
Yes, you are, actually.
Yes.
Cass, you're on
Cass,
mute.
você está mute.
Mute.
You're on mute.
Cass. You're on mute, Cass.
Cass.
Cats.
Yes, you're on mute. Tá no mudo, Cass.
Sorry. I'm sorry. The dog's out.
Yeah, the dogs. Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry about my voice. I'm a bit hoarse. We have a question from audience about the new version of Usagi Yojimbo Saga Legends.
Mhm.
Will what the Pedro Bolsa? No. Okay. Will the additions come with the crossover with Ninja Turtles, and will they publish in about another book? Yes.
Yes. Well, my next year is Usagi's 40th anniversary, and it's also the Ninja Turtles' 40th anniversary. And we have crossed over many times in stories, comic books, as well as on television and the toys. And my latest crossover with the Ninja Turtles was a book called Where When, where the Ninja Turtles go back to feudal Japan, and there's many of my supporting characters like Gen the Bounty Hunter and Tomoe Ame, and they team up with Usagi to fight basically samurai robots. So actually, since you've mentioned the crossover with the turtles, I got the cover for the collection right here. This is the original,
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Wow.
and
amazing.
this is done with
Fantastic.
ink and watercolors.
Watercolors.
Really
Beautiful.
awesome.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very
Whoa,
beautiful.
whoa,
Awesome.
whoa, whoa, whoa.
Oh, Genosuke.
Very nice,
Beautiful.
sir.
Outstanding.
But I really like crossing over with the Ninja Turtles, and my favorite is Leonardo because he has the swords.
Yeah, for sure.
Know that. As we're talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I'd like to know how did the idea of the first crossover with the Turtles in their animated series come about, and what was like for you at the time?
It came about because Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman co-created the Ninja Turtles, and it was at a San Diego Comic-Con that I was sitting next to Peter, and they had the TV series, they had their toy line, and Peter just turned to me and said, "Would you like an Usagi toy?" And I said, "Oh, sure." And then he said, "Well, then we'll probably have to put Usagi in the Ninja Turtle cartoon." And I was all for that. So that's how the Ninja Turtle Usagi crossovers on the television and in the toys came about. It was just Peter and I were talking, and maybe let's see, about 10, 15 years later, when the Ninja Turtles were with Fox, Peter called up and said, "Oh, let's do it again." And I said, "Yeah, sure." The newest one on television was the Nickelodeon 3-part story. And I helped write the first episode. So that was a lot of fun. And that's probably my favorite of the Usagi Ninja Turtle television animation crossovers.
We love it. We love it.
Great.
Still on Usagi, sir. In my opinion, from my perspective, something that connects us all to the character is his flaws, right? And you have been asked before about ending the series and so on, but in my opinion, this is your way to tell humanity that we are here for the journey, not for the ending, right? And maybe that's why you don't consider ending it so soon. Does it make sense somehow?
Well, if I ended it, I'd be out of a job.
I'm not asking for that, okay? I'm not asking for that.
But because I'm the only creator, I write, I draw, I even do the hand lettering for the American stories. I control Usagi. I own Usagi. So Usagi, the story of Usagi is a story of one person's life throughout his entire life. And you can see how he changes and matures as the years go by. Whereas
True.
something like Spider-Man or Batman or something is owned by a company, and they have many creators, many writers, many artists that are involved in it. So with each new art team, they change the story a little. Sometimes they reboot it and start all over again. But with Usagi, it's just one long epic, one long story of one person's life told by one creator. So I think that is something that's unique about Usagi. You can see how he develops. When he was younger, he was very impulsive. He wouldn't think before, he acts. Now he's much older. He's lived a life. He's fought in many battles. He's had some quiet time. He's able to think. And just with age comes the wisdom that Usagi now has. And I think that's something very, very unique in comic books, at least in American comics.
Agree. Totally agree, sir.
Mhm.
Mario?
Yes. Translating the first numbers, I have some very touching, very moving stories about the Good Mother and Spotty the Tokage lizard. And as a grown up and as a professional, I came to tears over my keyboard sometimes. And I would like to know how much you wanted to touch readers' heart with some moments like the Good Mother and the fate of the lizard. And how much were you surprised that grown-ups came to you in events, convention centers, and said, "Oh, Mr. Sakai, you made me cry." So, how much did you want to move people, and how much were you surprised by people's reaction?
What really surprised me is you mentioned the lizard Spot. His name was Spot, and let's see now. I think book 4, Dragon Bell Conspiracy, is already out in Brazil, so I'm not revealing any big secrets. But Spot dies at the end, and his Spot was Usagi's pet. And after he died, I got the most hate mail.
Oh,
People are saying, "How can you do this?" It's like terrible. And it came out at a San Diego Comic-Con. I've been going to San Diego for about 40 years now, and there was a school teacher who loved Usagi, and she bought that issue at the convention, and she said, "Oh, I can't wait to take this home and read it, and I'll come back tomorrow and I'll tell you what I think of it." And she came back the next day and she swore at me, and she was so mad at me. "You killed Spot. How can you do that?" So that was a reaction I did not expect. I did not expect people to be so in love with the character and so quickly. And the thing is, I drew all those lizards in Usagi because in Usagi's world, all the animals are people, such as the dogs, cats, rats, everything are either are people in Usagi's world. Things that are pets, wild animals, even scavengers in our world are people. So I needed something to take the place of wild animals or pets in Usagi's world. And that's where those lizards come in. And they're just fun to draw because I love dinosaurs. So I put those in. And also, too, whenever I have a blank spot on the page or in the corner of a panel, I can draw a few of those lizards in, and the balance is perfect. The composition is just wonderful. And people think I'm a genius because, so that's why I draw those lizards. And I've actually gotten a question that someone asked, do they really have those lizards in Japan?
yeah.
And I said, yeah, they do. They're big and they're running all over the streets and getting hit by cars. Oh, they're terrible. They're all over the place. A lot of it came because I love to draw dinosaurs.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Sakai, all the stories of Usagi are epic. Okay, he's a samurai. He's doing his journey. Sometimes when we see other authors and other character on the stories, we have one great epic, and the other stories revolves around the epic saga. What I see in Usagi is it's an epic in the making. It's not, oh, you have one big story. You have to toss the ring to Mordor, and you have another stories around. No, you are making bricks in a great epic. Do you have a planning for this, or you are taking for the character and you go with him in the stories? You are making some panic. Oh, you said you do this, and you culminate it, or you're going with the flow with the story.
Well, my way of making stories is that I have certain epic storylines, like Dragon Bellow Conspiracy, or later on Grasscutter, and I have smaller stories that lead up to those epic stories. Like I would introduce or reintroduce characters that will be in that in Dragon Bellow, or other stories that I have, and that's the way I work. The smaller stories also are good places for new readers to come in, because usually they're short stories, maybe 20, 24 pages. And whereas the epic stories, the long ones, may take like an entire book. Like Dragon Bellow Conspiracy is about 150 pages. And I had a whole lot of smaller stories that lead up to that. And that's the way I plan my stories. Right now, I'm working on a story that I probably will not be able to finish for another 5 years or so. And that's the way I work. Excuse me, I'm going to. Yes.
Let's. Should I?
Excuse me.
Bless
No
you.
worries.
Alberto.
I don't have a mute button, do I?
You should.
I make some other small
Here,
question, please. The way you make stories, have you draw a character or put a character in a story that say, okay, this character is just here, just for this story, he will not appear another, but after, okay, I will use this character again, he will make this, he will die here. Have you ever make this use a character you don't think much about initially, but later you've considered put in a bigger role?
Definitely. There have been a few like that, such as, now this hasn't been published in Brazil yet, but it has in the US and in other countries. There's a character named Sanshobo. He's a priest. And he was just supposed to appear in one story. And he was a minor character. But then I got so much reaction about him, say, oh, that's a great character, bring him back. And so I made an entire backstory about him, that he was a samurai, a great warrior. And it was because his son died that he gave up the sword and went into the priesthood. And then he appeared in other stories, such as Grasscutter and a few others. And he's one of the most favorite characters of the readers. And he's fun to work with because he has the demeanor of a priest, and yet he has a backstory of a warrior. So I like working with him. Other characters, I love mysteries. I love reading mystery books. And So I wanted to do a mystery story with Usagi, and because I own the character, I can do any kind of stories like that. I've done love stories, action adventure, mysteries. I can do anything, or some like a story called Chano Yu. It just teaches about the tea ceremony. But there was one character I wanted to do named Inspector Ishida, and he's like a Sherlock Holmes type of character.
Mhm.
And he was just going to be one storyline called The Hairpin Murders. And the fan reaction and my love of the character just grew. And so he's become a regular. I don't use him that often because, as I said, he's like Sherlock Holmes, so he's very smart. He can figure out mysteries. And whenever Usagi teams up with him, Usagi becomes a secondary character because the spotlight is on Ishida because he's the main person. That he's the police investigator. But he's a character that started off as a minor character, but now has been elevated to a regular character.
Nice.
That's amazing.
Okay.
That's
It's
amazing.
really nice to hear this this
Yeah.
trappings of the
Yeah.
working of
The
characters.
creative process. Yeah, I enjoy
Yes.
that. Well,
Mr. Sakai, another question about for the audience. Marcelo,
Yeah,
please.
I will help here, sir.
I see it.
Marcelo Pereira is asking that, well, it's obvious that there's a great influence of samurai cinema in your work, right? And if you could talk specifically about the character Zatoichi, right, who was immortalized by Shintaro Katsu.
Yeah, I grew up watching those Zatoichi movies. I think there were like 26 movies by Shintaro Katsu. There was also a TV series, and they're terrific. They tried to update it, but nothing like the original. Zatoichi was a blind swordsman, and he had an amazing sense of hearing. He could hear, such as the leaves as they fell down the tree, and with a quick swipe of his sword cane, he could cut it in half. My character, Zato Ino, is also blind. Zato Inoshishi means wild boar or wild pig. And pigs have an amazing sense of smell. Like in Europe, they're used to run out truffles underground, so they can smell. So my Zato Ino goes about. He's blind, but he can tell things with his nose, and he can smell the leaf as it falls down from the branch. And with a quick swipe of his sword cane, he can cut it in half. So, in the first episode, when they first met, Usagi and Zato Ino had a duel. Usagi cuts off Zato Ino's nose, and thereby making him really blind. But Zato Ino comes back later with a wooden nose.
Yeah.
And it works just as well, except everything's now pine scented. It smells like trees. So, but I love those old samurai movies. And Zato Ino, Lone Wolf and Cub. My Lone Wolf and Cub became Lone Goat and Kid in Usagi's world.
Yeah.
That's something that I use very sparingly because it's a homage or influenced by another character. And I love using them, but I try not to use them too much, too often.
Oh, great.
Great.
Now it's my turn. Please, Mr. Sakai. There's currently an animated series on Netflix based on your creations that I think helped Usagi become known to another audience. But have you ever considered having a movie or series based strictly only Usagi Yojimbo?
Yes, we've wanted to do a movie or a series, a mini-series about Usagi. And we have been in talks with many producers and directors. So far, nothing has come out of it. with the Netflix series, it was called Samurai Rabbit Usagi Chronicles, at least in the US. We focused on a descendant of Usagi, of my Usagi, and it made mainly for a younger audience, because currently in today's market, by the time children are 6 years old, they do not watch animation anymore. They're on to video games. They're using their, and so the prime audience for a cartoon series is probably like between 2 and 5 years old. So we geared it towards the probably older than it should have been, like 6 to 12-year-old market. But there were 2 seasons, yeah, I enjoyed it. I was one of the executive producers, and I approved everything. I approved the scripts. I approved the artwork, the character designs, even things like the broccoli, and everything rocks. Because anything that had to do with a prop, or if he picks up a broccoli or if he picks up a rock, they have to draw it. So I have to approve. Okay, that rock looks good. Let's go with that. So, and it was that detailed. And the voice actors, I approved the voice actors. The original Usagi also makes appearances in that. And so there was one actor, Yuki Matsuzaki from Japan, that I really wanted. So I said, I want him to be Usagi. And so they got him from Japan to do the voice of the original Usagi. But yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of work, but it was fun. It was an experience for me.
Yeah.
Great.
You told us some moments ago, sir, that you do everything in the book, right?
Mhm.
And we know that we consider you in the highest level in the creator's hierarchy, right? Because you do anything that you want, right? And I read some interviews where you say that, well, my editors just see my work when it's finished, right? So 2 questions on that. How is that, right? And if you have any tips for other creators to reach this level, right, in the top of the hierarchy, right?
I have been very blessed. I've been very fortunate because whenever I worked with publishers, it was just assumed that I keep everything. And that's the way it was with Fantagraphics books. Then I went over to Mirage, Dark Horse. I went over to IDW after Dark Horse, and now I'm currently back at Dark Horse. But it's always been assumed, and I've always demanded that I own everything. I own the artwork. I own all merchandising rights. I own the storylines. I can do whatever I want. If I turned in a story with Usagi, a white rabbit naked in the snow, where it's all white pages, blank pages, they'll have to publish it. And so that's the contract I have with all my publishers.
But you've conquered that, right? You've conquered throughout the years, right?
Yeah.
Just calling by memory, John Byrne did that in an Alpha Flight issue. A fight in the snow with Snowbird and
Yes, number 6.
And Wendigo.
Yes.
And
John
Wendigo.
Byrne did it, and Wendigo. So, sir,
Sergio
cartoon-
Aragonés did a Gru story with no words. It was all pantomime.
wow.
And that was my favorite Gru story ever, because I got to read it as a fan.
Ah,
The first time I saw it was
cool.
finished up
Yeah.
the printed book. Whereas with regularly, he sends me the artwork, and I hand letter the lettering directly on his original artwork. So I know what the story is about. With that particular story, I had no idea what was going on, and when I read it, oh, this is what-
Great.
So, sir, about Easter eggs. In the very first issues,
Yes.
we found Gru, we found Calvin and Hobbes, We found a Ninja Turtle before the first Ninja Turtle crossover.
Yeah.
We found the Four Group Quartet at the end of a story. You love that, right?
Yes.
So, how much do you love leaving Easter eggs? And how is the reaction by your colleagues to appear or their creations like Gru or Calvin and Hobbes? What can you tell? You see that I love backstage stories. So, how was the reaction? How is this love for Easter eggs?
It's mainly for the fans. Well, for myself too, but also the fans. I don't put that many other creators' artwork in there anymore. But what I do put in is every issue or every story since the last maybe 7 years, I've been drawing a pineapple in every story. And people say, "Oh, I found the pineapple. It's on panel 5, page 23, and someone's
great.
eating pineapple. Pineapple is in the background, or someone's instead of a head, someone has a pineapple as a head, and things like that." But those are the issues I would pay homage to other creators, especially if they're friends of mine. Speaking of those little Easter eggs, I used to see Sergio quite often, like maybe once a month or twice a month. And I remember there's a story called The Kite Story. I think it's in the next book, book 5. It's called The Kite Story. And I finished the entire story. I inked it and everything. And I saw Sergio, so I asked Sergio to, can you read this story for me? So he took it away. He sat in the corner by himself, and he read it, and he gave it back. Said, "Oh, this is wonderful. It's a good story." And when the book was published, people came up to me and said, "I love how you put Gru in there. Oh, that's a good Gru you drew." And I said, "Yeah." When he took it away, Sergio had drawn a little Gru in the crowd scene. But that's something that
Nice.
That's a nice Easter egg for me too.
The people play it on you this time. It's just okay. I perceive in your previous answers that you receive a lot of feedback from your readers, from your friends, for the fans of Usagi. How much did you consider this feedback? How much did you consider this opinion, this relationship to your readers, to evolve or to change your story? Because Usagi is our character, our story. You write your story you want to do, but how much the readers influence in this creation is sometimes is a collaboration. Sometimes I could say, because I think this is very kind. This is very fantastic because you are in contact with your readers, and not only you are giving great stories, but these people like this, I will give more of this. How are this collaboration with your readers? Because I think it's interesting to people know how these are.
I love my readers, and they are very dear to me. Most of all, they're very supportive of my work, and that's something that all creators need, because I'm a freelance artist. I work by myself in isolation. I have a studio, and I pretty much work by myself most days. Except for my family, I hardly see anyone. And the readers give me input, what they like. Sometimes they've either even suggested storylines. It would be neat if Stan did a story about the tea ceremony, or about fishing in Japan or something. Then I would think, that's a good idea. I've never done a story like that. So they would spark off its story. And there's a few groups that I love. The Facebook group, I think it's Usagi Yojimbo ! That I'm on regularly. And I have my own Facebook. I think it's official Stan Sakai on Facebook. And I keep in contact with them. And many of these readers have become good friends. I've gone to weddings. Unfortunately, I've also gone to funerals of some of these. They've stayed at my house, and just a few select that we've gotten very, very close. There's even a few that you talked about Easter eggs, and there's a few that have even inked little parts of Usagi, and we'd have a little contest, like saying, "Oh, there's something in here that was inked by this person, and can you guess what
That's
it is?"
fantastic. That's
And,
really
yeah, one guy inked a rock, and then he put his initials on the rock, and we had a contest. Like, oh, someone, I had a guest inker for this issue, this story. If you guess what it is, and tell me who it is, then you win some kind of prize. And yeah, another person inked one of the pineapples, and for that one, it was a friend of mine who we met because of Usagi, and we put his name in the tree limbs.
I ask this because people say, and mostly true, that comic artist is a very lonely job.
Mhm.
You do at your home or at studio, and you do it only you. But
Yes.
this interaction with people, with your readers, is sometimes fantastic. I know this. My wife is a comic artist too, so we have great interaction with readers, and I know you too. So I want you to talk about this because it's always good stories. It's always fantastic stories. One of the things that make us continue to work with comics, I guess, is the friends we do in the process, I guess.
Yes. Yes. In fact, I used to get together once a week with cartoonist friends, artist friends of mine. We would get together at a restaurant, and we were doing this for about 20, 25 years, every Friday. And then COVID hit. But now we get together on Zoom every Friday, 12:30. Serge Aragonés, Scott Shaw, sometimes Mark Evanier, maybe a dozen up to 18 of us. And we still keep in contact, that connection with other artists. We sometimes Sergio will say, "Oh, I just bought this new book, and this is what it is." He talks about it, or Mark Evanier says, "Oh, I met so and so," or if he'll talk about a person he met, and it's still just that friendly banter between friends, and I still enjoy that.
Nice.
Levi?
Thank you. Mr. Sakai, much is said among publishers and comic book authors about attracting new readers. Some time ago, the chibi version of Usagi saw the light of day. Was this project created with the sole intention of attracting new readers? And how is the series performing?
That was Chibi Usagi. My wife, Julie, is an artist herself, and her style is a more chibi style. It's cuter, and actually, let's see.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Nice.
This flash.
Yeah.
Chibi.
And chibi spot.
Well,
Beautiful. So
She
good.
draws the chibi style. And
Don't show-
you spot.
don't show Spot. People will say you're mean because you're cute, Spot.
but I love working with Julie. Our first collaboration was for the Peanuts 65th, Charles Schulz's Peanuts 65th anniversary coffee table book. And we collaborated on a story where Charlie Brown goes to Japan. And we had a great time with that. And she came up with the idea of making Chibi Usagi. And so we did a few Chibi Usagi stories. And then we did a graphic novel, a whole novel about Chibi Usagi. And that won an Eisner Award last year. And we plan to do more of it. And it is to attract new readers. maybe a younger audience, younger readers. But it's also, for us, it's a fun project. I love doing Usagi. By the way, Judy designed this. She also
Mhm.
prototype. And
Fantastic.
yeah,
Yeah, very cute.
And
it's-
adorable.
yeah.
But still on that, sir. How do you foresee comic industry worldwide, or currently and in the future? Uh, does cross media always need to be pursued, or is there a way for comics to survive by itself in the future? What do you think?
It's very difficult for comics just to survive. Numbers are very low, and many artists have to take on full-time jobs doing something else and supplement their other time doing comics. So comics would be like a part-time job.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate in that Usagi does well enough that I can devote my entire time to Usagi. But as far as the movies, TV series, merchandising goes, we do it mainly because it's fun. I love having the plushies or the
An action figure.
Wow.
action figures. It's
Nice.
Oh,
Usagi.
So
yeah,
beautiful.
Usagi.
beautiful.
by Nika Toys.
Space,
And-
space Usagi.
Yeah, Space Usagi. And there's also been even Usagi hot sauce, Usagi coffee. Right now, there's Usagi's a playable character in a Ninja Turtle. I think it's called Shredder's
Yes.
Revenge game. And
Yeah.
Which make totally sense.
yeah, and those are neat, but it's mainly fun for us just to see Usagi in a different something other than comic books.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, I love to see other people's interpretations of Usagi. Like Jeff Darrow, he's a good friend. His version of Usagi is completely different from mine, and I love it. Scotty Young just did a Usagi cover for me, and I love his style. And there's so many others.
Oh,
Now,
We love Space Usagi as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
again, dinosaurs. Yeah.
Nice.
Mario.
Sir,
Mario?
Akira Kurosawa, Toshiro Mifune, what would you consider your greatest influence outside comics? And how did the Japanese readers normally react to your work on Usagi?
Well, my favorite, I tend to follow directors such as Kurosawa, you had mentioned. James Cameron, I love the way he introduces characters. Taika Waititi, oh, I love his work, my gosh.
Mhm.
Kurosawa probably has the biggest cinema influence on me. I tend to approach storytelling like cinema does. And I try to do a cinematic feel to it, the way the one action leads to the next. I try to make everything very logical, as if it was on you are watching a film. One thing about Kurosawa that is definitely I've noticed that, and I try to imitate, is that there's always movement. Even if a character is just standing still, you see the grass waving or leaves being blown behind him or something. There's always some kind of movement. And that's something I've always tried to bring into Usagi, such as even quiet moments of Usagi contemplating. There's trees, you can see the trees are bending, or leaves, or falling cherry blossoms or something. I always try to put movement in Usagi. Taika Waititi's work is just amazing. Thor Ragnarok is one of my favorite Marvel movies. And he has a sense of humor as well as a sense of action. And those are great. I love watching Taika's work. And you had another part of the question.
Yes, I would like to know how the Japanese readers react to Usagi, because you bring the Japanese traditions and culture into Usagi. But did you get a chance to know how the Japanese readers, the people really in Japan, how they react to your work?
Yes, they know almost nothing about Usagi. There has never been a Western series that has made even a small dent in the manga market, the Japanese manga market. I was invited to Japan. This is back in 1999 by Osamu Tezuka Productions, and they were doing a series of seminars, symposiums, bringing in Western artists so they could meet the Japanese mangaka. And I was one of the guests one year, and we met publishers, we met other mangaka, cartoonists, and editors. We visited many publishing houses, and I was actually surprised that they knew who I was because, like I said, the manga market is so strong that it's almost people, the casual reader in Japan does not know anything other than manga. They don't know Asterix, or they might not know, Tintin or anyone. So it's very insular. The manga goes out of Japan, but comics do not come into Japan.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Well, Mr. Sakai, I will make a question that a lot of our viewers here in the channel will probably want to make to you. I don't know if you are aware, we have a big Comic-Con here in Brazil, the Comic-Con Experience, as one of the biggest of the world, which is the same number of people as San Diego Comic-Con or New York Comic-Con. And when the people from the event begin to announce the event, there is a list of people that the reader says, "Oh, can these people come here? Can these people come here?" And your name is always in these lists.
Oh,
You
wonderful.
have one day you have the idea or the feeling, you feel, "Oh, I may go to there. I may go to visit Brazil. I may go." You are open to invitation and to someday, who knows, came here in Brazil to know your readers, to make signing and know people here, because the people ask, and you always politely ask, because you have 70 years old now. Sometimes people say, "Oh, I don't want to go travel. It's very complicated." You have the will to come here to Brazil to know our readers. There is a possibility we can have Stan Sakai here in Brazil one day.
Of course, yes. I have two international trips planned this year. So, yeah, I still do travel. I don't travel as much, but I still do travel.
Nice.
Nice.
We will
Great
talk-
to
we'll
hear
talk-
that.
We'll talk to Levi to see if he brings you here. Okay?
But I do not travel alone anymore.
Yeah.
My wife
No.
Julie and at least our daughter.
No,
Emily.
that's not a problem.
Not
It's a
problem.
problem
Oh, yeah.
for the people for
It's a
Edmonton.
pleasure to
problem.
receive your entire family.
We
Yeah.
all work as a family, actually. I had mentioned Julie, and we collaborate on the Chibi Usagi stories. Emmy does the coloring for the covers, and also some of the interiors as well. Daniel, Julie's son, Daniel and Emmy are my stepchildren, and Daniel does the licensing, and the negotiations. He is the one that put together the Netflix deal, and that's why Daniel is one of the executive producers as well. But we really love traveling, and
Well, we would love to receive you and your family here in Brazil. Oh, nice to know. Great to know.
Let's make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you
Let's
hear?
make it happen right
Did
now.
you hear that, Levi?
Come
Did you
on,
hear that,
Levi.
Please
It's
come
up to
Brazil.
you, Levi. Make it happen, man.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll try. I'll give a try.
Now,
This-
now we
this
put Levi in a hard spot.
Yeah.
Mr. Sakai, this is a
Yeah.
bit outside of comics, but
Yes.
I read an interview that you went vacation in Japan and ended up doing volunteer work
Yeah.
in seaweed farm. Can I take
Seaweed farm. Yeah.
seaweed farm? Can you tell a bit
Yes,
more about
actually,
that?
yes,
Please.
that was when was that? That was about 7 years ago, and I did an Usagi story called Kaiso, which means seaweed, where Usagi helps some seaweed farmers, and I had never heard of. That story came about because of my parents. They went to Japan, and they showed us pictures, and they said, "Oh, this picture is taken at a seaweed farm." I had never heard of a seaweed farm before, and so I did some research and found how they harvested seaweed or how they grew seaweed in old Japan. And so I did a story called Kaiso. It was many years later that our family went to the Tohoku region, and Tohoku is where that giant tsunami hit, and it devastated the entire area.
Mhm.
And they were still recovering from that. And so Julie's brother, who was living in Japan at the time, arranged for us to help them for a day. And we worked at a seaweed farm, and it was wonderful. We had such a good time, and we were helping people. So we really enjoyed ourselves. We
Nice.
slept at a church, and they fed us, and yeah, it was a nice experience, and it was
Yeah.
great that we could help them.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Mr. Sakai, we already have a wonderful hour with you. Could we have a last round of questions?
Oh, sure. I also brought some artwork here, so if you'd like to see that as well.
Wow.
Ooh.
Totally.
Oh,
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
yes, we do. Yes, we do.
I don't have the pages or anything that you have already seen. Let's see. You've seen this Ninja Turtle one. This is
Whoa.
another.
Original art.
Wow.
Oh, beautiful.
Beautiful.
So
This is,
beautiful.
I think you're on book 4. This was the cover for book 38.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's
And that's,
beautiful.
ninja bats in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And let's see. I'm going back to Dark Horse again. And this is the cover for
Oh.
the first
Wow.
issue of the Dark Horse, the new Dark Horse series.
Beautiful.
And that's his
Watercolor, Mr. Sakai.
yeah, that's his cousin Yukichi. And that's something Yukichi and Usagi met just a couple of years ago, and they did not know each other existed.
Yeah.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Incidentally, these are done with watercolors, and
Uh-huh.
whenever I do one of these, on the back of it, I do little
Oh.
Ah,
made. And
Beautiful. Nice.
Incredible.
this is a cover that I had just finished.
Wow.
Wow.
so beautiful. Look at the details.
Is that
Yeah.
Yeah, so many details.
I do everything's done by hand, including all the dots on Usagi.
Ah.
Yeah.
And when I
Yeah.
do these for the cover, I write down how many dots I drew on each clothes. Each of these dots represents 100 dots on Usagi's kimono there. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1,020 dots on Usagi's.
Wow.
1,000. 1,000.
1,020.
Do you do these dots with the brush?
Hmm?
Do you do
No,
this
those are
with-
dots done with a pen.
Is that pen?
With a pen.
And this is one cover for Yokai Hunter.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Oh, I do
Beautiful.
love I do love yokai. I do love yokai.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love horror movies, and
Yeah.
one theme that I love so much is the yokai. The three yokai, the series of three yokai movies are fantastic.
Hmm. And Japan has such a rich tradition of yokai and monsters and folklore that and it's wonderful. It's so much to pull from, and I love doing stories about yokai just because. I
They're
mean,
amazing.
they have the very horrible ones, the terrifying ones, but they also have the really goofy, the funny ones, like the
Yeah.
Kasubake, which is the umbrella that just hops around.
Yes,
And there are some really, really strange ones.
I
Well,
think
and they are
I
so
think
cool to draw.
I think the Rookie B, it's
Oh, yeah.
terrifying.
The long neck. Yeah.
The man,
Yeah.
I think you say, oh, it's a woman with a long neck,
Yeah.
but it's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's scary as hell.
Yeah. But they are so cool to draw.
They're fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I have one last question.
Yes.
Who are your favorite authors in comics?
Oh,
In comics,
Yeah.
I like Jeff Smith's Bone, Sergio, of course.
Oh,
Mhm.
No. Jeff Darrow, I love his work just because
Darrow.
it's so
Mhm.
intensely weird.
yeah.
And I love his work. David Peterson, his Mouse Guard series is wonderful.
Mhm.
Let's see. Oh, I forgot. There's some writers. Neil Gaiman's great.
Mhm.
Oh, I can't think of his name. He Six Gun.
Ah, yeah. It's not published in Brazil, but I
Okay.
know. Yeah.
I mean, he's gonna kill me because I can't remember.
No,
Well,
let's. I will look for
I'm
that
70
right
years
now.
old, so what can I say? But there's so
Marcelo?
many. Yeah, even some of the European artists are just terrific.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of them are terrific.
Cullen Bunn. Cullen
Oh,
Bunn.
Cullen. Yes, of course, Cullen Bunn.
Yeah.
Marcelo?
So my last question would be regarding characters, right?
Mhm.
Because you told us that you started reading superheroes and so on, and we know that you have been doing some things out of Uzagi book, right? Some
Mhm.
collaborations and so on. But any character that you would like to work from now on, or I don't know, in the future that you haven't before?
Not really, because I've been doing variant covers for Marvel and for other publishers too. So I get to draw some of their characters that way. Like I just did a Star Wars cover. I did Moon Knight. There's Conan, but I don't have to do the entire story, which is nice. But yeah,
Great.
and I love what I do. I'm really blessed to be able to make a living at drawing comics. I've also been able to meet my heroes, which is just amazing. I worked with Stan Lee for 25 years. I knew Jack Kirby, Mobius, so many others, and I'm just really thankful, and I know I'm very fortunate.
And we can see that, sir. We can see that you love it, and that's why we love it. So thank you for that.
No, thank you.
Mario?
Mario?
no,
Microphone.
Mario.
On mute again,
you're
Mario.
mute again.
Yes, kids are noisy again. What can I do? So, our good friend Pedro Bolsa from the audience is curious about if you intend to someday finish this beautiful story you have been telling us for 40 years, or the Senso Limited series, in a sense, is already this finishing.
Oh, you know about Senso? That's I'm
Yeah.
amazed. Actually, there's another story I had that I don't know if it's really a part of Usagi, the storyline, but in the U.S., IDW had published a series called The Last Ronin. It's a Ninja Turtle story, talking about the last of the four brother turtles. And yeah, that's Senso. And
Yeah, census here. Yeah.
so I had wanted to do a story like that takes place in the far future, where it's an apocalyptic world, the descendant of Usagi's. And I kind of want to do that because I have a nice ending to that one. But I just want to continue Usagi. Maybe we'll find someone who can able to take over Usagi from me, or I don't know if I should just end it or quietly or end it with violence, or I don't know. Haven't thought that far. There's still a few more Usagi stories that I want to do before I reach the end.
Thank you so much.
Interesting.
Rogério.
Okay, Mr. Sagi, I guess I will do the last question because we are about 1 hour talking with you. It's this time flew with incredible velocity. I don't know, times go by. You think you say sometime. Sorry, years ago I read an author say that he create a character, and sometimes is like the character walk with his all legs.
Yes.
That he does not create anything more. Is the character is alive? He just tell the stories that character usually do. When I was younger, I said, "Oh, this is selling this because it's cute, it's beautiful." But when I became older, I began to work with comics and writing, and I see, oh man, this guy is correct. Sometimes you see the character say, okay, this character in this situation will do this. I cannot do anything else. This character has to die. This character has to go away. This is the same when you work with Usagi for these long years. Just you feel sometimes you no longer create things for Usagi. You just tell what happened with Usagi. It's natural. It's that way that works the character or the other characters in Usagi Saga.
Well, I still control the characters. However, sometimes I'll write a story and then I'll think that's not how Usagi would do it, or he'll tell me, "Oh, that's not the way." So I'll rewrite the story. What's big changes in Usagi is the way he looks, and that I did not plan on. He just evolved on his own. If you look at the very early stories, such as some that you are printing right now, Usagi's kind of shorter. He's cuddlier. He's more cuter. Whereas now my stories are more where, like if you look at these, it's his proportions have changed. He used to be maybe 4 heads high. Now he's more like 5 heads high, and now he has a little. In the early stories, he had a straight nose. Now he has a little bump on the nose, and that's completely not my doing. It's just Usagi developed and maturing on his own, the way I have matured as an artist and a writer. So has Usagi matured and changed over the years as well.
I guess so. The readers also mature with Usagi, and this is the way you make the readers. He accompany the readers as well.
Exactly. Yeah. The readers accompany Usagi along the 40-year journey so far.
The readers go from cuter to less cuter.
Well, that's now, but then now we got cute Usagi as well. So.
Mr. Sakai, we've hit the end. And what I say again, it was an honor.
Well, it's been a pleasure for me. So thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank
much. Could you show me an original again for a photo with
A
your
picture.
Make a
original and
picture
the
photo.
books? Yeah.
Okay. Anyone in particular? You want the ninja?
Yeah.
As you
Anyone.
wish. Anyone.
this one's right
Oh,
here.
these are great.
Wow. Yeah. This is a photo.
Yeah, we can
We
get
have
this
a
picture
good,
for
a
the eternity. Yeah.
beautiful picture.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much. And it's a great interview. But
Yeah, this
is the end.
yeah.
Guys?
This is the back of it.
Oh, no. Whoa. Nice.
We're not worried.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I had a great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank you,
very
sir.
much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have
Thank
a
you
great
so
week,
much.
sir.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ok.
Uau!
It's a Portuguese
Agora a gente volta a
version.
falar em português.
A minha cabeça de vocês falam muito melhor do que eu. Minha cabeça ainda fica meio zureta com... Bem, pessoal,
Não,
essa foi a
bem,
nossa...
foi bem.
É.
Foi bem hoje.
Tô melhorando.
Galera, eu tô vendo que a galera tinha bastante perguntas que foram aparecendo, mas devido
claro,
ao
como-
tempo,
E
a gente
como eu
não
falei aqui
podia-
embaixo também, na nossa... Aqui na descrição do vídeo, nem todas as perguntas dariam para ser respondidas. Teria preferência para o Superchat. Não teve Superchat, então a gente foi escolhendo as que davam aqui. Mas mesmo assim, a gente tinha pouco tempo. Eu abri mão de algumas vezes minhas.
Mas tem uma coisa que eu posso tentar, galera.
Uhum.
Já que ele foi super gentil,
Se ele quiser
eu vou
voltar uma
perguntar
próxima
para
vez.
ele isso também, e se ele topa também responder algumas perguntas por e-mail.
E
Pode
também,
ser, mas-
galera, dá uma olhada se alguma coisa que vocês perguntaram, a gente já não perguntou
Exato.
nas
É,
perguntas
também
anteriores.
Perguntou sobre onde ele se baseou para criar os personagens antropomórficos. Isso foi respondido um pouco lá no começo.
Antes de saírem, deixem aquele like para a live se
um like
espalhar.
nervoso.
Compartilha com os amigos, porque a live vai ficar online, como sempre. Essa entrevista está um pouco menor, acho que eu consigo deixar a legenda pronta para a semana que vem. Tá ok? Então, vou fazer a legenda dessa live toda. A live está, como vocês viram, toda em português. Daqui a algumas horas, o próprio YouTube já reconhece algumas partes da live em inglês. Então, você vai ter a opção de colocar para traduzir automaticamente. Não fica perfeito, mas já dá para você entender um pouquinho, se você não sabe quem, mas acredito que todos que ficaram aqui sabem. E hoje é... Perdão, gente, eu estava tossindo demais.
Hoje é
Hoje é
quarta-feira.
quarta que vem, a live vai estar com legenda, tá ok? E não vou falar alto, não, vou falar baixo. E daí vocês vão
O
poder
Cassiano vai estar com a voz
assistir.
melhor.
Eu vou falar baixo assim, mas tô mais baixo. O tom que eu faço aqui é um pouco alto demais. Então, semana que vem vai estar com a legenda em português aqui no vídeo, ou eu vou criar um vídeo novo que daí eu coloco em HD e posso colocar imagens também para vocês. Vocês escolhem. Vocês querem que eu coloque a legenda aqui e faça mais um vídeo com imagens do que ele falou aqui para vocês saberem? Conta aqui no comentário aqui embaixo, logo depois da live, já deixa o comentário aqui no vídeo. Isso também ajuda bastante o YouTube a compartilhar o vídeo com seus amigos, com a galera do YouTube que não ficou sabendo dessa maravilhosa live. E é isso. Semana que vem temos lives especiais aqui. Mário está super feliz. O sorriso dele diz tudo. Né, Mário?
Não, fantástico. Só tenho a agradecer de novo uma oportunidade, Cassiano, porque o mundo Gonzo está cada vez mais fantástico. Essas pessoas que você traz são incríveis e quando eu falo
Vocês que são incríveis. Vocês que são,
um autor, né, que é ídolo, é porque é ídolo mesmo e se tem trazido pessoas muitíssimo significativas, importantes para o nosso meio dos quadrinhos. Então eu agradeço por estar aqui e por ter selecionado pessoas tão legais aqui para estar com a gente nesse grupo de entrevistadores aqui. Estou muito bem cercado.
Eu agradeço vocês.
Você está cercado.
E obrigado, Levi, que está aqui comigo, pela ajuda aí também, né? Obrigado, Marcelo Boide, sempre aqui, sempre disposto a dar o seu tostão de conhecimento com os nossos convidados. Semana que vem tem live aqui no Mundo Gonzo, espero estar com a voz melhor. Rogério Saladino, mais uma vez, muito obrigado, sempre com ótimas perguntas também. A gente se esbarra para este mundo, quarta-feira tem legenda, curtam a live e fiquem bem. Eu despeço de vocês offline, ok? Até a próxima, galera. Tchau, tchau. Fui!
Tchau.
Tchau.